And just like that, we're in the metro. We're going to take the Silver Line Metro into Washington, D.C. to get a sandwich, of course, and then go to Union Station because we're riding the Capital Limited for possibly the last time today.
Doors open. This is a Silver Line train to Yorkville, Baltimore. Move to the center of the car. The next stop is Innovation Center.
I know I don't get out enough, but this is my first time alone on a Washington Metro train, and I like it. The route of Amtrak's Capital Limited will no longer be served by a bi-level Superliner train set originating at Washington, D.C., but will rather be the continuation of a single-level Amfleet and Viewliner train originating daily in Miami. It's going to be called the Floridian and will run for the 2 years required to complete major work on New York City's Hudson River tunnels at the endpoint of the current Silver Star service, which is being merged with the Capital Limited, dropping the Star's DC to NYC stops. The change also provides additional Superliner cars where needed on Western long-distance routes, as the existing fleet suffered a number of damaged cars, and others have been in extended use agreements with Amtrak California for the Pacific Surfliner service, or serving as axle count cars on Illinois routes, thanks to very specific rules about the minimum length of trains on the former Illinois Central line.
Step back. Doors open.
The Capital Limited is one of 2 DC to Chicago running Amtrak routes, and is sold alongside the Lakeshore Limited out of New York City for those seeking connections to Chicago and other communities across the eastern Midwest and beyond. Its current route dates back to the early 1980s, the successor of the train called Shenandoah, and had made use of Superliner equipment since the early 90s. The first 2 times I rode the Cap, it had a full dining car and sightseer lounge, but both were dropped late in the 2010s as food service cutbacks and equipment rehabilitation or transfers to Western routes began to take effect. What remains is something longer than regional rail, but an altogether short example of long-distance passenger rail in America. Right on target. That was a good sandwich. That was worth a 2-hour flight. That bread was so warm. The pepper relish just exploded out of it. Should have left a toothpick in it for sure. Let's go to Union Station. For years, the Capital Limited has run with Superliner bi-level coaches and sleepers. But starting in November, the schedule is being combined with the Silver Star to run from Chicago to Miami as one train over 2 nights. The reason for this is because up in New York City, the tunnels are getting worked on, and 1 fewer train a day, or night rather, through those tunnels will facilitate that construction. To get south of Washington, D.C., the tunnels have to have single-level cars running through them. So the Superliners are going to be out in November, and I wanted to get one more ride in with those before they may or may not come back. because Amtrak says this is temporary, but they're also a business. And if the equipment utilization of switching over the Superliners that are running on the route now to the western routes, see, the western trains have a lot of cars that are damaged, they're getting old. So the move to single level cars may become permanent if that equipment utilization continues to be the preference of Amtrak management. Most passengers don't really know what kind of equipment is going to be used. I mean, even the Capital Limited used to have a sightseer lounge. I'd be surprised if we have one on here today. We may just be stuck in our coach seat for most of the trip. We'll have to see what kind of cafe setup they have.
Doors opening. Step back. Doors closing.
DC's Union Station is a complete set of Amtrak cliches. An opulent classical front-facing passenger reception hall, a well-designed but half-vacant shopping mall in the middle, sparsely staffed ticket and guest service counters, and a passenger waiting area thereafter that feels like a stretched-out bus terminal. The latter being set up with boarding gates for Amtrak and MARC, that being Maryland's commuter trains, as well as VRE, the Virginia Railway Express, that fill up with passengers well before boarding. We're set to use a lounge pass purchased via my Amtrak Guest Rewards points that is situated in a walled-off portion of the passenger waiting area amidst the central boarding gates.
Welcome aboard Amtrak Northeast Regional Train number 156 and with the New York Penn Station. Priority orders for the Amtrak and North executives, left club members and consular travelers.
This lounge is very unique, very utilitarian, as well as recently refurbished and refurnished, but without any artwork, as Amtrak is preparing a new system-wide art rollout. Even though I'm in coach, the setup of the lounge allows for the conductors of our train to priority board all of Train 29's passengers situated in the lounge at boarding time, without any need for coach passengers like myself to wait in line. The Northeast Regional and Acela services just have passengers leave the lounge when it gets closer to boarding time as announcements are made. We board with red cap assisted passengers by way of a procession through the final portion of Union Station, the parking garage-esque boarding platform. I've boarded Northeast Regional trains from the further east platforms and found those to be more inviting than what the west tracks we're off to today amount to. The parking spots for long-distance trains, alongside cars of station staff, and a generally gloomy, if not sheltered, feeling. The new Floridian is unlikely to utilize these platforms, being that it will be on the eastern through tracks coming and going around its planned stops for recrewing here in DC going forward.
And you coach, right, sir?
Our coach car has been reupholstered as part of Amtrak's most recent interior overhauls. But the bathrooms on the lower level of our coach will be out for the trip, due to an equipment issue the crew couldn't overcome without delaying our train. The coach car behind us in the consist has all bathrooms working and would be dutifully cleaned by our coach car attendant throughout the trip. A really welcome change for me after regularly riding the well-utilized coaches and their bathrooms the Empire Builder features on its second day out, eastbound from St. Paul. The walk back through the other car afforded me access to the railfan window on the back of the train, as well as the time kill of a short but extra walking distance in lieu of somewhere else to go on the train like a lounge car. For the part immediately outside of DC, the Capital Limited feels much like a suburban commuter train for its first few hours, connecting cities along the old Baltimore and Ohio Railroad from Cumberland, Maryland to the East Coast. Beyond, the current routing through Ohio prefers the Cleveland and Chicago subdivisions of CSX after Pittsburgh going west. Formerly New York Central and the Pennsylvania Railroad in overnight segment.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard Amtrak's Capital Limited train number 29 en route to Chicago. My name is Christy. I am your lead service attendant here and will be for the duration of this trip. The cafe is now open and serving. We accept all major credit cards, cash, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and small bills are always greatly appreciated. The dining car will be closed for our coach and passengers for the time being until an announcement is made. This way we can get our sleeper car passengers to bed dinner. Again, the cafe is now open and now serving. Welcome aboard Amtrak. Thank you.
Amtrak 29 approach limited New York Avenue. Good to meet you, gentlemen. Going over. Nothing's open yet. She said not for coach passengers, for sleeping car passengers. You got that right. You can pull it up. This relaxes it.
Okay.
And then this one's for the seat back.
Okay. Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you. Yeah, you don't.
All right, let me clear 2.3.
You gotta do it manual, like. You don't be more like a lazy boy.
These are lines not entirely freight congested, but by no means capable of high-speed running due to the lines running along through the Allegheny Mountains and alongside mountain rivers. Not to mention right-of-way limitations and commuter rail traffic around DC.
train. First class passengers, your attendant should have briefed you on how your car is configured and services that are available for you. Coach passengers, the cafe cards in front of you. Apple, Samsung, Google, debit, credit, and cash are acceptable forms of payment. We have hot and cold sandwiches, snacks, beverages, wine, and spirits available for sale. In your coach accommodation car, upstairs and downstairs are trash receptacles, as well as hand sanitizer. For all of our passengers, we need your help in minimizing the possibility of personal injuries aboard the train. Please have shoes on your feet anytime you leave your accommodation area. Look out for your children if they're with you. Make sure they have shoes on their feet, folks. Keep one hand free as you move about so you can grab a table, luggage rack, seat back as you're moving about the train. Ask for assistance if you need assistance, folks. That's what we're here for. For the coach passengers, underneath the window are electrical outlets. Also above your head, a reading lamp. Click the white button for reading lamps. They'll come in handy later on tonight. We'll talk about quiet hours later on. Downstairs for the coach passengers are several bathrooms. We have an accessible bathroom, a large lounge area, and 3 standard size bathrooms downstairs where your luggage may be stored if you brought it aboard the train with you. Your seat reclines. The upper latch on your armrest reclines your seat back. The lower latch relaxes your footrest. The footrest is behind your legs. You'll pull it up manually. And the seat back in front of you, and for first class passengers in your room, make yourself familiar with the passenger safety instruction card. Safety and security information you may not be familiar with as you ride aboard our train. The Amtrak Police would like to hear from you. We just celebrated National Train Day and National Awareness Day. APD 11-27311 for the Amtrak Police. You may text them at any time. Text them the train number or the station name that you're located at. APD 11-27311 for the Amtrak Police. Next stop in Rockville, Maryland.
Cafe is open, man.
Thank you.
Cafe is open. Bring the food back to your seats.
All right, folks, please extend your courtesy and consideration to your fellow passengers. Personal listening devices should be used with personal entertainment. They will be required after 10 o'clock tonight when we experience quiet hours. We'll talk about that later. Next up is Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Looking to be there around 5:15 p.m. We do thank you for choosing Amtrak. Remember, folks, hydration. We're back to some humid days. The cafe car has a variety of beverages for sale. Make sure your children maintain a good level of hydration as well. If you have family members or friends that have been affected by the hurricane or tropical storm, we'll keep them in our thoughts as we proceed westbound to Chicago. Thank you for choosing Amtrak.
The daylight running portions in each direction come and go quickly. Though the small towns after DC all had some passenger business on this, a modestly sold Saturday early fall train. The major cities later on would see the coach behind ours mostly filled with passengers by morning after Waterloo, Indiana, and Elkhart. The line is the most concisely routed for transfers between Chicago and the East Coast for the Lake Erie towns, and it affords a lot of connections to other Amtrak services at its endpoints. This train utilizes a diner lounge, a specific Superliner design that has a cafe with counter service on one half and sparse tables, as well as a second half of the car full of tables.
On board, train number 29 about to make its next stop in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Always wait for a crew member for safe boarding on the training. At no time should any passenger take it upon yourself to open and close the exit doors and windows. When we make the announcement, check for all of your personal belongings, valuable items, electronic devices, and accessories. Harpers Ferry, West Virginia coming up, folks. Thank you.
That are first devoted to the dinner accommodations included with sleeping car passengers' first-class fares, much as my daughter and I had experienced leaving Chicago a year earlier on the eastbound Capital Limited. After a couple hours, those tables open up for all passengers to sit in, except for the hours of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., when the cafe remains closed. I've experienced this kind of dining car which serves the pre-made flexible dining meals while on the Texas Eagle almost 2 years ago, and twice on the City of New Orleans with full-service dining many years earlier. They can be serviceable dining cars for traditional dining operations, such as those reintroduced to the Silver Star that will be on board the Floridian. But the Capital Limited hasn't had such meals for 6 years at this point, while the diner lounges have been utilized on the DC to Chicago route simply as cafe cars with extra seating. This is one change the Floridian will have to its credit come November.
Make sure you have all your belongings and wait for a crew member for safety training. Thank you for choosing Amtrak. The time is 5:38 p.m. We're on schedule. Coming into Martinsburg, West Virginia. Folks, moving right along. Next up, as we leave Martinsburg, West Virginia on time. Next up is Cumberland, Maryland in about 90 minutes. And if we get there on time, you'll have a brief smoke break if we don't lose any time before then. And the remaining training schedule, folks, is as follows. Now we got Cumberland, Maryland coming up at about 7:15, 9:45 p.m. Connellsville, Pennsylvania. And then Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania around 11:30 tonight. 5 stops in the state of Ohio. Alliance, Cleveland, Elyria, Sandusky, and Toledo. Alliance at 1:40 a.m. Cleveland will be about 3 o'clock in the morning. That'll be another smoker stretched out. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 11:30 tonight will be a scheduled smoke stop. And then we'll go to Elyria at 3:30, Sandusky at 4 o'clock, and Toledo at 5 o'clock. And Toledo will be a third and final smoke break. So you've got Pittsburgh at 11:30, Cleveland at 3 a.m., and Toledo at 5 a.m. for the scheduled smoking stop. If we are on time at Cumberland, that'll be a brief smoke stop, not a stretch stop, just a smoke stop for the smokers.
For dinner, I had the cold Asian noodle salad. The spicy dressing made this worth more than the asking price, which, with a drink and cookie for dessert and tip, ran about $16 and was purchased to carry back and eat at my seat, as the dining area had not yet opened for coach passenger seating.
7:09 p.m. and we're approaching our next stop of Cumberland, Maryland. Cumberland, Maryland passengers always wait for a crew member for safe boarding or detraining. Never take it upon yourself to open and close the exit doors or windows.
It's these overnight stops in some of America's classic large population centers across the eastern Midwest that evoke the limitations of America's transportation options. Flights out of this area at more convenient hours can come at much higher airfare, which looks acceptable considering the hard nightfalls cover at Amtrak's time of departure on a value-laden coach fare from most major cities, especially considering the lack of frills, scenery, or time savings incurred by train routes at present.
Or the observation lounge, we have neither. This train does not have wireless connectivity, and neither does it have the availability of an observation car. If you had anticipated otherwise, we apologize. Thank you for choosing Amtrak.
But when inner-city bus service is so hodgepodge as it currently is, Amtrak often stands as the best choice for folks in Ohio and elsewhere across America. Even with departure times in the middle of the night, after Greyhound's reliability issues and Megabus's ultimate demise are considered. When you can find a conveniently timed coach bus fare across much of Middle America, it's at a higher cost and greater human toll than the train offers. But not by much, so many still consider inner-city coaches more convenient out here. It's a war of decreasing standards for low-cost travel between America's post-colonial homestead cities and the coastal cities their residents seek holidays or business within today. Long gone is the talk of the golden age of train travel coming back, and we're now trying to prop up a system via reorganizations of routes and refurbishment rather than service expansions and a new fleet on any meaningful timelines for people that are too impatient to travel any way other than the skies. Though the new Floridian's reintroduction of dining car meals prepared on board the train with full-plated table service will be a greatly needed step back in the right direction forward, especially if the meals are made available to coach passengers. As Amtrak attempts to roll out soon a partnership with Google to place its train routes within airline flight search results to lure over new ridership, I'm doubtful the Floridian will turn over a lot of consistent new ridership to destinations in the southeastern U.S. from passengers up in the Midwest. Not for the concerns of the reliability of the Midwestern segment awaiting a train that originated in Miami, but moreover the longer travel time of Amtrak trains in general, just not looking attractive to most Midwest travelers. And if Amtrak's fan base stays devoted to sleeper car travel, the cost of better experiencing this train journey in first class to come over 2 nights won't seem preferable, as the cost of those 2 nights aboard the service have regularly come close to and over $1,000 that could be spent flying and having more time at potential vacation destinations. It's just not that great of an overall experience versus a faster flight without these Superliners inclusions of the Sightseer Lounge, which can't get south of DC due to the tunnels just past the station. So my hope is that the new train schedule and equipment set used on this, the route of the Capital Limited starting in November, will be both limited in tenure and a prelude to some restoration of features offered on board, as well as a look at instituting a day train between Ohio and the East Coast for a better diversity of fares as well as more convenient service. A sightseer lounge, traditional dining meals, and functional coaches will help Amtrak leave passengers on this route committed to the extra time spent for some sort of experience beyond that of a coach bus with an adjacent snack bar as it currently stands. But if the next generation Aero train sets currently in the procurement cycle end up being a significant improvement over the venture cars of this decade, then Amtrak might have some incentive to let the Floridian continue as a single level on this route. After all, the lack of replacements for Superliners is the major problem that started all this, and their replacements are more conceptual than the new single-level cars out east. It might be worthy of considering the restored Capital Limited be extended to Southern Virginia as a single-level train, or other points out east to increase ridership after the Floridian era concludes. But with the shorter distance run overall and the restoration of the Silver Star continuing to add capacity on routes to Florida, it could be a win-win for all these communities combined on the East Coast. All of these theoretical routings and performance-based scenarios don't dwell on the elephant in the room, though. The speed of travel, and will Amtrak be able to either upgrade its speed or to upgrade its marketing of the onboard travel experience? Given the inequities of the onboard service on my trip in coach today, but the relative comfort without the perks of a lounge car for the prices I experienced in my previous trip in first class, I'd say there's little hope of guessing accurately until the New York Tunnel project completes and the situation across Amtrak's entire network is then reevaluated. Practically, I'd like to pitch the idea of a daily Cardinal train, the other train that goes between DC and Chicago, with traditional dining to better complement this region's travel connections. Really, it's been a long time coming for Cincinnati and Indianapolis. Both have large terminals that have been or are currently shuttered, certainly used too sparsely as passenger terminals. The Cardinal sleeper accommodations are in lower demand, though, across its only 3-day-a-week schedule, so perhaps a trip to Appalachia via the Ohio and New River valleys is in order next year. Anyway, past the industrial expanses of Gary and South Chicago, our train is the second of 2 early morning arrivals in Amtrak's long-distance system that have yet called upon Chicago this Sunday as we arrive early, 8:25 a.m. on Track 20. trip, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm ready to decompress and spread out in the Metropolitan Lounge before catching my next train, number 1333, the Borealis westbound to St. Paul, which will be featured in a later update about the results of that train's first half-year running. Thanks for coming with me on one last night of bi-level coach service on the Capital Limited. You can still catch it up till November on this route if you have the time and money for it. I definitely slept better this past evening than I had on my United red-eye flight from LAX 2 weeks prior. The sleeper would have been a great deal more comfortable than coach, especially for my feet. I've found coach seats by any mode of transit give me foot cramps throughout the night, but the classic long-distance seats found on the Capital Limited and its temporary successor are still arguably worth the great value of $99 for this overnight trip, maybe with just some extra padding down there near my shoes. I'll be aboard the Floridian in its summer season when sleeper demand is hopefully lower. Until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. We're out. We're going to go check to see if there's any cancellations in business class. Worth a shot. And then we're going to go to the lounge. Because I got another lounge pass.